Hey there, all you fantastic people. I hope your day has been absolutely wonderful. We're back for another exciting episode of What If Naruto Became the Wind Lord. Make sure to show some appreciation to the talented author behind this fanfiction. You'll find the link waiting for you down in the description. In this What If, Naruto finds some scrolls that contain Fūton Jutsus. When he goes to ask the old man about them, the answers he gets will change his life. If this What If has your imagination running wild, drop a comment down below and let me in on your thoughts. And don't forget to explore the array of other captivating What Ifs available on this channel. Alright, without further ado, let's kick off this video and dive into this exciting journey. It was early in the morning as Haku walked towards the apartment that she shared with Naruto. She walked down the quiet streets of the village while carrying a large bundle of herbs and other plants that she had spent last afternoon and all night collecting. With them, she could make several kinds of medical creams as well as seasonings for her cooking. She soon passed a shop that had a gourd in the display window, which caused her thoughts to drift to a certain red-haired genin. When she had first seen him, she thought he looked weak and tired. Of course, seeing him fight changed her mind about that. But there was something more to him. In his eyes, she could see that he was in pain, a pain that only came from betrayal. For a long time, she had seen that same look in her eyes after her father had killed her mother and then tried to kill her. Slowly, she walked up the steps that led to the apartment, while she thought more about Gaara. She had to admit that she thought that he was kind of cute, and she had caught him staring at her several times. Did that mean that he liked her? Maybe he simply thought that she was pretty. She did get that reaction a lot. A guy would see her and would want to get to know her because she looked really hot, and that was about it. She remembered one time in a certain village when a guy offered to buy her a drink. She accepted, and when he thought she wasn't looking, he tried to slip something in her drink. Of course, being a skilled kunoichi, she saw him do it as if there had been a large neon sign pointing to his actions. She then decided to simply leave rather than make a fuss about it when he then became a bit more direct by grabbing her. Before she could do anything, Zabuza showed up. After Zabuza took care of him, the two of them left that village really quickly. Haku stopped her thought when she was only a few feet from the door. There, standing still like a statue, was Naruto. Haku walked towards him, and then waved a free hand in front of his face. If he saw it, he didn't seem to express it. In fact, the only expression on his face was pure shock. With a sigh, she used her chakra to gather water in the air above Naruto's head. Once she felt she had enough, Haku allowed gravity to do the rest, and watched as it fell on her cousin's head. Once the cold water hit the blonde's head, he yelled out in surprise. "What the hell was that for?" asked Naruto as he became aware that Haku was in front of him and that it was no longer night. "I think I'll like this story," said Haku as she opened the door. Naruto followed her in, and the two of them sat down at the table. Haku laid all that she had gathered on the table and then looked at Naruto with a curious smile on her face. "So, what happened?" "Well," began Naruto. For the next several minutes, Naruto told his cousin all about what had happened. Haku listened silently as Naruto told her about the two kisses and the girl's actions after both of them. "I just don't get it," he said as finished his story. "I mean, they both dropped this on me and I don't understand why. It's simple," said Haku calmly. "They both have feeling for you. And that's what I don't get," said Naruto loudly. "We're friends, we've always been friends. I like them both, but I just don't know if I like them that way. Maybe if they had left some hints before this, it would be different." Haku sighed. "Listen, cousin," said Haku firmly. "Has either one ever tried to get rid of the other so that the two of you could be alone?" Naruto thought for a moment and then nodded. "And when you are alone with one of them and the other just happens to show up, does the girl you were with get a little upset in any way?" Naruto nodded once again. "Have they ever fought over who will help you with anything?" Again, Naruto nodded. Those were the signs. Naruto's eyes widened at this revelation. They had been sending him hints for some time now, and he had been completely clueless. Thinking back, how could he have not seen this? Suddenly his shoulders felt heavy and his head landed on the table. "This can't be good," muttered Naruto. "I just hope that they don't turn into Ino or Sakura." "Don't worry, NarutoHinataAnko," said Haku as she got up and headed towards the stove. "They're both fine kunoichi. I'm sure they'll handle it well." "That's what I'm afraid of," said Naruto with a shudder. With Ino and Sakura, One could usually expect them to just call each other names and say rude things about the other. Sometimes they would get into fights, but they were both so unskilled that their fights looked like just a normal brawl. However, Hinata and Anko were both skilled kunoichi and had a lot of skills at their disposal. If they two ever fought, Naruto was sure that Anko would be riding a snake while trying to get Hinata, who would be speeding around her. And somehow he saw himself curled into a ball while floating in the air as he watched the two fight over him. Every man's dream his ass. "Hey Naruto Itoko," said Haku as she snapped him out of his thoughts. "Have you seen the cherry pie that I left near the window to cool down?" Naruto shook his head. I guess someone stole it. Well, I'd better make another one. Someone actually said they want me to start cooking for them after they heard about my cooking skills. I pity the baka, thought Naruto as he watched as Haku began to make another pie. However, he soon left as Haku began to add things into it that he knew did not belong in any kind of food. Who the hell taught her how to cook in the first place? Elsewhere, Hisame groaned in pain. Michi lay on the ground near her with green foam coming out of her mouth. Last night she thought she had been lucky when she spotted that pie. Sure, it seemed to bleed a bit when she cut herself a slice and even for when she cut her partner a slice. But she didn't expect this kind of reaction. And the strangest part was that she was still hungry. Neji was in some kind of cage. To be specific, it was a bird cage. And outside the cage was Naruto flying around it freely. Neji watched as the blonde made figure eights in the air and then a few loops. The long-haired Hyuga tried to get out by squeezing between the bars but to no avail. Then, Naruto appeared in front of him with the bars of the cage separating them. "Need a hand?" asked Naruto. Before Neji could respond in any way, Naruto flew under the cage. Neji watched as a blade made of wind seemed to pierce the floor of the cage, and then began to move around its edges until it had completely circled around. As soon as it had done this, the floor fell and Neji fell with it. Neji tried to call out for help, but all that came out was chirping. It was then that Neji realized that he had been turned into a small bluebird. Neji looked up and saw Naruto had begun to change as well. Naruto grew golden feathers and his body changed into that of a bird. When he was done, Neji could see that Naruto was now a golden eagle. The eagle screeched, and then shot towards Neji with its talons ready for the kill. That was when Neji woke up, screaming. Hanabi was in the hospital and was heading for Neji's room. Last night had been one of the worst she could remember. During dinner it took all of her willpower not to start asking her father questions about what Hinata said. After dinner she had gone to her bedroom and just laid there on the bed. Her thoughts kept her awake as she stared at the ceiling. Was she really just a replacement for her older sister? What would her life have been like if Hinata were still around? Would she still be next clan head? These thoughts plagued Hanabi, as did several fantasies she had where Hinata was still around and they were the ideal family. When she saw the sun's light enter her room, Hanabi got out of bed and got changed. She then wrote a note for her father saying that she would be checking up on Neji. Of course, she made it sound like she was only doing this because she was the future clan head and was going to scold Neji for his poor performance. Only someone like Hiyashi would be happy to read something like this and feel a sense of pride. It was a cold and uncaring, much like him. As Hanabi neared Neji's room, she heard a scream and stopped dead in her tracks. A moment later, Neji emerged from his room. He was still hooked to a medicine bag and had plenty of bandages on his leg and arms. "Where is he?" roared Neji. Hanabi stepped back in fright. Neji's eyes were unfocused, looking all over the place as if he was seeing things or looking for something that wasn't there. Chunin appeared out of nowhere and grabbed her cousin, but he fought back to the best of his ability. But with Neji's body in the shape it was in, it proved to be a fruitless battle as he was easily brought back into his room and forced onto the bed. As nurses entered the room, Neji continued to struggle while yelling out, "I know he's here somewhere. I'm not done with you yet, Uzumaki. It's my fate to beat you. My fate." Before he could say any more, a nurse stuck a needle in his neck and soon Neji passed out. "Will he be alright?" asked Hanabi suddenly. Everyone turned around to see the girl standing in the doorway for the first time. She watched as they all exchanged looks nervously, as if hoping that someone would volunteer to explain to her the problem. A doctor was eventually called him and led Hanabi to his office. He sat her down and took a seat behind his desk. "Hyuga-sama," said the doctor in a serious tone, Physically, your cousin is fine. His injuries were serious, but they weren't life-threatening. He should be out in a matter of days. But what was with him freaking out back there? Demanded Hanabi. The doctor sighed. Well, like I said, physically he's fine, replied the doctor. However, his mental state is still another matter. At first I thought he was under a genjutsu, but our tests have come up negative. That leaves us with only one other possibility, and that is he is finding hard to accept the facts. Think of the mind as two parts working together to make the whole. One half is the logical part, and the other half is the ego. The logical part has accepted that Neji has lost while the ego is denying it. The two halves are clashing, and what you saw is the result. With the proper help he can come to terms with what happened and move on. How long that will take will be up to him. Hanabi nodded, thanked the doctor, and then left. As she left the hospital, her mind was clouded with angry thoughts. She was watching helplessly as the family she knew was being destroyed. Her father had taken away her sister the day she was born and hid that fact from her. Now her cousin was losing his mind. There was nothing she could do about her father, but she might have a chance to get back at the blonde. As she walked down the streets, her thought kept getting darker and darker. Then, as if it were a sign of some kind, she saw the blonde walking down the streets ahead of her. This was her chance. The smell at his apartment had become unbearable. So unbearable that Naruto had to leave just to relax for a while. He was currently on his way to the hot springs so that he could unwind a bit. Yeah, he'd take a nice hot dip in the hot springs and let his mind wander for a while so he could forget about all the shit that had been happening lately. Suddenly, he felt a small bit of killer intent aimed at him. He then lifted himself into the air and did a back flip to avoid the charge and palm thrust of a tiny Hyuga who he had no idea who she was. He stopped and hovered behind her while he was upside down and watched as the little girl, who had charged at him with all her might, fell into the hot river water that was just up ahead. A couple of minutes later, Hanabi found herself sitting in front of the hot spring wearing a bathrobe until her clothing dried. Her skin was still red and stung like hell from time to time, but that wasn't the worst part. No, the worst part was that she was saved by the person she had tried to kill. Well, maybe not kill, but at least harm in some way. Suddenly, she felt something cold press against her cheek. She looked over and saw Naruto pressing a bottle of cold milk against her cheek with a big grin on his face. "Thank you," she said as she accepted the milk. "No problem," said Naruto as he sat down next to her. "So, what was that about anyways?" "You hurt my cousin," said Hanabi before she began to drink the milk. Naruto blinked for a moment and then remembered the Chunin exams. Funny, he had forgotten all about that. "Oh, I see," said Naruto. "You're Hiyashi team's kid. Nice to meet you." Upon hearing someone talk about her father that way, Hanabi spat out the milk in a comical fashion. Didn't he know who he was? Her father was the head of one of the most powerful clans in the village. He couldn't just talk about him like that in front of his daughter and act like it was nothing. "Don't talk about him like that," said Hanabi. "It's disrespectful." Naruto snorted. "There is nothing about that man that I respect," said Naruto. "Just because he was born into a powerful clan and happens to be the head means nothing to me. Especially after what he did to a friend of mine." Hanabi lowered her head at the "You mean my sister?" she said quietly. Naruto blinked in surprise. He turned his head and looked at her in shock. "I just found out," she continued. "I saw her on the streets one day and began to look into it. But when I finally found out the truth, it wasn't what I expected. I guess that's the way it goes," said Naruto as he thought about when he found out why the village hated him. "Have you talked to her at all?" Hanabi nodded as she took another sip of her milk. "Didn't go so well, did it?" "It's all my fault," said Hanabi. "If I hadn't been born, then she might still be a Hyuga." Why the hell are you smiling?" It was true, Naruto had a big grin on his face and it ticked Hanabi off. "Sorry," said Naruto as he tried to get rid of his grin and failed. "It's just that I'm glad you were born. It's because of you that Hinata-chan was able to get away from that clan, away from her father. She's opened up so much since then and has people who care about her. They don't see her as a Hyuga but as Hinata-chan. So, I'm glad you were born." "But what about me?" demanded Hanabi. "How am I supposed to feel about this? I'm just the replacement. And now I have to live with the knowledge that Tucson can replace me as well if he wants to. Well, said Naruto, you can only hope. Things like that are out of anyone's control. And just so you know, Hinata-chan has never blamed you for what happened. I could tell that she has missed being a part of your life because whenever she heard about the head family she got really curious. I think that she has wanted to talk to you for a while but couldn't due to Hiashi team. So, what I'm trying to get at here is don't blame yourself any more than you already have. Hanabi looked at Naruto in shock at what he said. It was comforting. No one else in her family had ever talked to her like that, like she was a child. From a young age she was expected to be strong and mature all the time. She had a role to fill and that role had no room for weakness. And now, with the sun's light hitting his face just right, Hanabi turned away before he could notice a blush on her face. She began to wonder what was wrong with her and Naruto sipped his milk in pure blissful ignorance. However, the moment Hanabi turned around was when she saw something that caused her to scream. Pervert! She yelled as she pointed up into a tree. Naruto whipped his head around and saw the target. He was an old man with white hair with red markings on his face. He was oddly dressed and was writing stuff down on a notepad while giggling like an idiot. This is great stuff, he said. I had hoped to get some research done with the women at the hot spring, but this is even better. I can see it now. The boyfriend comforts the sister of his lover, beginning their own relationship. What the hell are you smoking? Demanded Naruto, who didn't notice Hanabi's blush. Who are you anyways? The man jumped down and began to do a dance. I am the man all the women seek, sang the man. I am the man who is feared by all other men. The great sage of the Toads of MT. I asked for a name, not a lame song and dance routine, interrupted Naruto. The man face faulted. Fine, snapped the man. I'm Jiraiya of the Densetsu no Sanin. I am also the writer of the very popular Aika Aika series. So you're the pervert who writes those books Kakashi-sensei is always reading? Asked Naruto as he pointed an accusing finger at Jiraiya. I'm not any pervert, corrected Jiraiya as he closed his eyes. I'm a super pervert. When he opened his eyes he saw that Naruto and Hanabi were now walking away from him. Hey, where are you going? Away from anyone who takes pride in being called a super pervert, replied Naruto as he walked away. I always thought that the members of the Densetsu no Sanin were better than that, said Hanabi with a sigh. Now I know that one of them is a porn writing show-off. Densetsu no Sanin? Repeated Naruto. He turned around and pointed at Jiraiya again. Hey, you're one of the weaklings that lost to Hanzoji-san. Jiraiya face faulted again, and when he got back up his face was covered with tick marks. I'm not weak, he said. And I could beat his wrinkly ass right now if he was here. Yeah, said Naruto with a deadpan expression. And if you couldn't do it now you could always wait until he was in a wheelchair or on life support. Damn it, thought Jiraiya. This Gaki gets under my skin the same way his mother did. I guess it's true that he looks like Minato but has Kushina's personality. Scary. As scary as it was, it now gave him a clue into handling Naruto. Fine, be that way, said Jiraiya as if he were a child. And here I was going to teach you a new jutsu. A really good one too, seeing it was one of the Yandaime's. But since you're being so cold to me, maybe I shouldn't. Jiraiya paused for a moment and observed Naruto's reaction. He could tell that Naruto was at war with himself. One side wanted to leave while the other side wanted to learn the jutsu. All he needed was one more push. Oh, what am I thinking? I doubt that you could master this jutsu even if you had 1,000,000 years. Hook, line, and sinker. I'll show you Rasengan, roared Naruto. Tick-marked returned to Jiraiya's face. Don't call me that Gaki, shouted Jiraiya. They're both bakas, said Hanabi as she walked away. Over in a clearing, Jiraiya held up a water balloon. Okay, began Jiraiya. There are no hand signs for this jutsu, which seems to be your specialty. Now, there are 3 steps in learning this jutsu. This is the first. Suddenly the water balloon in Jiraiya's hand became all bumpy until it burst. Now then, you will have mastered this step when you can burst the balloon by rotating your chakra. Ha! Laughed Naruto. This'll be easy. With that, Naruto picked up a water balloon and began to rotate his chakra. Soon, the balloon began to bulge a bit around the middle until it became more like a disc. Not as easy as it looks, laughed Jiraiya. Naruto scowled as then closed his eyes. He slowly replayed what he had seen the older man do in his mind and compared it with what he was doing now. He was doing what he was told to do, but there was a very visible difference between what he had done and what was supposed to happen. I don't get it, thought Naruto. Mine's all flat while his was full of bumps. Wait a minute, his also remained round while mine got flat. So that means that something else was keeping it like that. Something else, something else, something else. Maybe there was more than one rotation going on. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow as a smirk appeared on Naruto's face. Naruto then held up his balloon, and then bumps appeared on it like Jiraiya's had. Suddenly it burst, splashing everyone near it with water. How the hell did you do that? Demanded Jiraiya. Naruto grinned. Well, it's kind of like how I fly, replied Naruto. I just wrap the wind around me and have it rotate in all directions to keep me up. So I just used the same concept with this and it worked. I can't believe it took me this long to figure out. I can't believe you caught on this fast, thought Jiraiya. But then again, Sensei taught him about chakra control a long time ago. This might be interesting. Okay then, said Jiraiya as he pulled out a rubber ball this time. Let's move on to step 2. Meanwhile, Zaku and Dosu were in the ANBU torture and investigation chamber. They were both strapped to steel chairs and bars placed next to their heads to keep them from moving. In front of them were 2 TV screens that showed them the front door. They stared at it while Ibiki stood next to them. This is your last chance, he said. I want to know what Orochimaru is planning. If you don't tell me what I want to know, then you will have to pay the price. So, what will it be? If I could give you the finger, I would, replied Zaku. We will never betray Orochimaru-sama, said Dosu. Very well then, said Ibiki as he pulled out a remote with a single red button on it. You had your chance. With that, he pressed the button. As soon as he did, the doors at the entrance began to open. Dosu and Zaku gulped as a figure began to walk into the building. The figure was enveloped by the light, causing the 2 shinobi to be unable to make out his features. All they could tell was that he was carrying something. The figure then walked towards the reception desk and they saw that it was Haku. What the hell? Yelled Dosu. Are you trying to tempt us with women? That doesn't sound so bad, said Zaku. Hello? Said Haku to the receptionist. I brought Ibiki-san those pies he ordered, but I don't understand why he didn't want me to leave them at his place. They're for a party, said the receptionist. Haku nodded and then left after getting paid. As soon as she was gone, 4 people in hazmat suits came into the room and took the pies. A few minutes later, Ibiki was slicing one of them while wearing a breathing device. Time for your just desserts, he said as they were then force-feed Haku's pies from hell. The Suna siblings were at their apartment doing nothing much. Baki, their sensei, had left to inform their father of the events that had taken place so far and to receive new orders. Temari was polishing her fan. Kankuro was staring out a window. Gaara, well, he had a lot on his mind. Ever since he came to this village, he had been having all these weird feelings. First was with that girl, Haku. He had never felt that way towards anyone in his life. He even spared his opponent when he thought that killing him might make her unhappy. Still, he had no idea why he felt this way. The other feeling was fear. Something about that flying blonde caused Shikaku to become restless and panicked. When Gaara had tried to ask his mother why, all he received was silence. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Gaara let out a sigh, got up, and went over to the door. Walking would help him stay awake anyways. When Gaara reached the door, he opened it to find Haku. Ah, stammered Gaara as he was now face to face with the black-haired girl. Temari and Kankuro stopped what they were doing to turn and watch the events occurring in front of them. Hello? Said Haku. I was on my way home when I remembered that I had some extra cookies that I had made. And well, you see, I know you are all new here, I just wanted to make you all feel welcome. So here. With that, Haku held out a tray of cookies that looked very good to Gaara, who stood there like a statue. When the other 2 siblings heard that, they felt a twinge of guilt. They were planning on destroying the village, and this girl was giving them cookies to help make them feel welcome. How do you get over that kind of guilt? Temari gulped as she got up and walked over to the door. Ah, thanks, she said as she took the cookies from Haku. Would you like to come in? All right, said Haku, causing Gaara's heart to skip a beat. Temari then set the cookies on the table and went to make some tea. Gaara and Haku sat down while Kankuro watched from a distance. As soon as they sat down, Haku began to ask Gaara questions. Simple ones really. She asked him what Suna was like, his hobbies, how he was handling being out of the desert, and other such things. Gaara, for the most part, answered these questions quickly while not looking at her face. Then, things took an interesting turn. Gaara reached out for one of the cookies that were laying out on the table. After all, he could use a little sugar to stay awake, and Haku had brought them. So without any hesitation, he took a bit and swallowed. Then next thing that happened was that he fell right to the ground. When his siblings saw this, they rushed to start damage control. First order of business, get civilians to safety. "Oh Kami!" cried Haku as she watched Temari move to her brother's side. "We'll handle this," said Kankuro. "I think you better go." "But I have medicine," said Haku. Kankuro just shook his head as he picked her up and then began to push her out the door. "Trust me on this," he said. "It's a family thing." And with that, he closed the door in Haku's face before she could say another word. As soon as the accidental chief was out of the room, Kankuro turned towards his sister as he prayed that his little brother wasn't asleep. If he was, then they were all screwed because when he was asleep the demon inside of his began to eat away at his soul. "Well, how is he?" "He's asleep," stammered Temari. She then gulped. "Whatever was in that cookie knocked him out in a second." Suddenly her eyes widened. "You don't think that they know about Gaara? That girl might have been sent here to turn him loose on us." "That's impossible," said Kankuro. "No one outside the village knows about his condition." "Well, nobody that's still alive, that is. And speaking of that, why are we still alive?" Temari blinked and turned her attention back to Gaara. He seemed like he was sleeping like any normal person. But he wasn't normal, he was Gaara. Gaara then let out a snore, causing Temari and Kankuro to jump with fright. What was going on? Meanwhile, inside the seal, Shikako was lying on his back with X's where his eyes should have been. His mouth was open and his tongue was hanging out of it. It had taken all of his strength to keep whatever was in that cookie from hurting his host and sending it to him instead. The end result was that he not only tasted that awful thing, but he felt everything that Gaara would have felt. The things he did to make sure that his host lived. The next morning, Sarutobi was drinking his morning tea before he got started on his paperwork. It was a ritual of his, and he did it every morning at the same time. He knew that some people like to start their day with coffee, but this was far more calming. He needed a little relaxation in between work and raising his grandson. Today he needed it more than ever. As soon as he sat down at his desk, he found 2 pieces of paper left by the council. The first one he read while drinking his tea was from the Kazekage, who was willing to allow the match between his son and Uchiha Sasuke. The second paper held the matchups that the council had decided upon. First would be Rock Lee versus Uzumaki Naruto. The second round would have the winner of the first round go up against Shihoin Hinata. After that was Kankuro against Aburame Shino. The fourth round pitted Nara Shikamaru against Temari. NarutoHinataAnko and Tsuchikin were up after that. Finally, there was Uchiha Sasuke and Gaara. While he was going to allow the last Uchiha in the village to enter, he wasn't going to promote him regardless of how well he did. This would be the price of allowing him to continue and still make it fair to everyone else. The old man took a sip of his tea as he set down the paper. He had a good idea who was behind the pairing of the first 2 rounds. Hiashi was certainly becoming a problem. The man still held a grudge against both Naruto and Hinata. He was probably hoping to see the outcome of a wounded and tired Naruto fight Hinata. However, the Hokage felt deep down that this plan of his would simply blow up in his face. Ever since the fight with Neji, there had been more favorable talk about Naruto. People would comment about what an amazing fight it had been and were wondering how the next match would be compared to it. Also, almost all of his shinobi had a change of heart about the boy. In fact, yesterday he had a Chunin request that Naruto join his team for a mission. According to the Chunin, Naruto's power of flight would help their chances of succeeding, and Sarutobi agreed. However, it would be unfair to ask Naruto to do any missions at this time while the others were preparing for the finals. Anko had also received more favorable talk. Well, it was mostly from the male half. Many of them were talking about what she'd look like in a few years. Hell, some of the more perverted men were drawing pictures or using henge to get a better visual. This led to many bloody noses. Just then the door opened. The Hokage looked up and was pleasantly surprised to see Jiraiya. "Hey old man," said Jiraiya with a huge grin on his face. "You seem to be in a good mood," commented the older man. If possible, Jiraiya's grin seemed to get bigger as he pulled out a notepad. "Ever since I got back I have found a ton of material for my research," he replied. "If things keep going as well as they have been, then my next book will be coming out much sooner than expected." Sarutobi's eyes widened and his nose began to drip a bit from hearing that. Oh, he had been waiting for the next book to come out for a while now. Realizing that he was showing his perverted side, the Hokage coughed and used it as an excuse to quickly wipe away the blood. His look grew serious and more fitting for someone in his position. After all, he never knew who was watching. And right now, he knew that more people were watching him than ever before. These were mostly reporters who were looking for inside scoops on his genin. But should one of them find him at this moment, he shuddered to think of the consequences. "So, how is the training going?" asked Sarutobi. "Well," said Jiraiya as he put away the notepad. "I have to say that I'm still disappointed that Naruto had already signed a different summoning contract." "I told you about that years ago," replied Sarutobi. I know, sighed Jiraiya. "But I had planned on using it to teach the Gaki how to draw on the Kyuubi's chakra. But I guess I'll have to figure out another way after I'm done showing him the Rasengan. Perhaps this is for the best," said the Hokage. "It would be a problem for everyone if Naruto became dependent on it or lost control. But if I were to teach him control, then that wouldn't be a problem," reasoned Jiraiya. "And if he can control it, then he will be able to use that chakra to its fullest." "I take it that you are referring to that," said Sarutobi. Jiraiya nodded. "So you think that Naruto is an heir to one of the 3 legendary clans? The one with the power to play dead dot? You know as well as I do that the founder of the Uzumaki clan had that power," said Jiraiya. "He was also to have had an unnatural control over the wind, so much so that he could fly. Also, his brothers were said to have had control over wood and the power to copy. We know who the other 2 were, and that only once in a long while that an heir appears that can mimic their powers. And I believe that we once had 2 heirs in this village at the same time. Yet the 3rd power hasn't surfaced since its founder," said Sarutobi. "And we don't know if Naruto's powers come from his training, his family, or the Kyuubi." Sarutobi shook his head. "It would be best that we didn't rely on this myth. Now, what has your information network found out?" "Damn you, Uzumaki!" screamed Madara. He was standing in the ruins of what was once Uzugakure, which stood on top a plateau. Back when it had been a shinobi village, there had been a lift system that would take dozens of people to the top. But now that and everything else about this place was falling apart. The buildings were crumbling and the plants were non-existent. Bones of dead animal littered the streets. Perhaps the only thing that seemed to remain the same since the last time he was there was the main road, which spiraled around the village until it came to an end in front of the shinobi office. Madara was standing in the office which once belonged to the village leader. Standing in there made the man remember the red-haired man who had defeated him long ago. While he had died right afterwards, Madara was still soundly defeated. He had failed to eliminate his target and to collect his prize. It was so irritating that after all these years he was still unable to find the last stone. He had one and he knew the location of the second one. Yet the 3rd stone remained hidden from him. It was out there somewhere. Kushina didn't have it on her when he sent her to that pocket dimension. It also wasn't in her house, which he searched right after the Kyuubi attack. It had to be here somewhere, and he would find it. "Lee, I want you to listen carefully," said Guy. Both he and Lee were at their normal training grounds as they prepared for the finals. They had gotten the matchups for the final part of the exam that a short time ago, and now Guy had to make sure that Lee could get past the first round. While he knew what the examiners were looking for, the more time you spent fighting, the better your odds at passing. "Hi, Guy-sensei," said Lee loudly as he pulled out a notepad from behind his back. "Your first opponent has a serious advantage over you," said Guy. "The power to fly will allow Naruto-kun to move wherever he wants and get out of range of your fists. And without any long-range skills, he will be untouchable." At this point, Lee looked up from his notepad. "So how can I beat him?" asked Lee. "Do not worry, my youthful student," said Guy with a laugh. From what I have seen, Naruto-kun has few long-range attacks of his own. He also seems to prefer to attack up close. If we were to increase your speed and timing, then you will be better able to avoid his attacks and counter them. We will also increase your weights, so that when you take them off you will be able to give him a little surprise. Do you understand? Yash! Yelled Lee as he put away his notepad. Sasuke began to pant as Kakashi stood over him with one of his eye smiles. Kakashi had to admit that Sasuke's training was moving faster than he had expected with his lightning element training. It was now day 2 and the boy was just starting to get the hang of the first part of the training, which was to charge up a light bulb with his churka. Sasuke was truly a genius to be able to do this. Also, having the Sharingan helped as well. After his loss in the prelims, Kakashi had sealed up the cursed mark as best he could. After that, he had heard about the fuss that was going on about the matchup. He had a feeling how things would turn out, so he decided to start Sasuke's training right away. Sasuke was eager to begin and to show everyone that he wasn't weak. They both knew that if it hadn't been for the curse mark, then Sasuke would have won. Now they were getting a chance to prove that fact to the entire world. "You're doing well," said Kakashi. "Once you are done with this part of your training, I can begin to teach you the Chidori. You'll need it if you want to do well in the next part of the exam." "Not like it mattered that much," said Sasuke. "All I want is some payback. Besides, I won't be able to pass, remember?" "True," said Kakashi. "But that is no excuse for you not to do your best. Also, this jutsu will not only help you in exam but with your goals as well." Hearing that, Sasuke seemed to perk up a bit. "I believe that once you have mastered this jutsu you will be able to defeat Naruto, Gaara, and eventually Itachi." "How can the Chidori help me beat that dope?" asked Sasuke. "A lightning jutsu will always lose to a wind jutsu." "That's right," said Kakashi with a nice smile. "But be that as it may, the Chidori will defeat the Senpuken. While my Sharingan can't copy the Senpuken, it has allowed me to spot its fatal flaw." At this, Sasuke leaned forward a bit. Like a hurricane or a twister, the Senpuken is basically wind rotating around a center point, which in this case is Naruto's fist. That center area is a calm place where there is little or no wind and is the center of power for the attack. Now, if you were able to disrupt that area with a powerful attack, then the attack will explode as all that power is released at once. However, there is a chance that the explosion will kill you both. So, in order to avoid this, you would need either a precise long-range attack or attack with a high-speed assault, and then get out of there quickly before the explosion occurs. The problem with a long-range attack is that the enemy will see it coming and might be able to do something about it. Naruto will most likely avoid it because he can fly. That leaves us with one option, which is why we will be working on your speed. I am positive that you will be able to defeat Gaara with this attack. And if Naruto's luck holds out, you might face him in the finals. Sasuke, I'm giving you this jutsu to help with your goals. However, I don't want you to use this jutsu against your allies. Right now, everyone in the exam is your enemy. But once the exam is over, some of them will become your allies once again. So once this exam is over, I do not want to see you use it against your teammates. Is that understood? Sasuke only nodded. It was late at night as Naruto dragged himself to Ichiroku's ramen. So far his training wasn't going as well as he had hoped. The second part of the training was proving to be far more difficult than he had thought it would be. Now Naruto's hands hurt like hell from molding all that chakra and putting it into a rubber ball. All he could hope for was that this would all be worth it in the end. The ramen stand seemed dead as Naruto took his usual seat. The only other person there was Ayame. "Naruto-kun," cried Ayame when she saw him. "I haven't seen you in like forever. How have you been?" "Fine," replied Naruto with a grin. "I've been busy training for the exams, so I have a big appetite. Can I please get double miso and double pork?" "Sure thing," said Ayame as she checked her watch. "Looks like you'll be my last customer since he's not showing up." "Who?" asked Naruto as he pulled out some chopsticks. "Oh, just this guy who has been showing up lately," replied Ayame as she went to work on Naruto's order. "He's a little weird and he comes from the northern side of the village. It's almost 9, so he won't." Just then a large boar came running towards the ramen stand. On its back was a man with black hair and a bandana. As soon as they were close to the stand, the boar suddenly stopped, and the man flew off of his ride and landed face first into the wall. "Show up," "Geez, Bonnie, why do you have to be like that?" said the man to the boar. He then turned around and smiled at Ayam while 4 other people who were also riding boars showed up. "How's it going, Ayam-chan? Bet you're glad to see me again?" "Yes, well," said Ayam with a nervous laugh. His body language just screamed that she had been hoping he wouldn't come. "Naruto-kun, this is Ganju. He's the man I was telling you about just now." At that, Ganju looked over at Naruto as if just noticing that he was there. As soon as he saw his headband, his eyes seemed to narrow. "What's a stinking shinobi doing here?" he asked. "What did you say?" demanded Naruto as tick marks appeared on his face. "Oh, what's the matter?" asked Ganju in a baby voice as he walked over to Naruto. He then walked over to him and began to pat Naruto on the side of his face. "I said, what's a stinking shinobi doing here?" When he finished saying that, Naruto punched him so hard that he was thrown back several meters. "What the hell was that for, you jerk?" "That's my line!" yelled Naruto as he pointed at Ganju. "I was sitting here minding my own business when you just showed up and started asking like a jerk. Who the hell do you think you are?" "I am the self-proclaimed #1 shinobi hater of the world," declared Ganju. "I am also the self-proclaimed most handsome and sexy man as well." Naruto just gritted his teeth. "Great," he said. "Just what I need. Another idiot." Fista was the self-proclaimed super pervert, and now this. "Looks like we were destined to be enemies," said Ganju, who seemed to be ignoring Naruto as he got into a fighting stance. "I'll enjoy making you a blood stain on the ground." Ganju was then about to charge when a ringing sound was heard. Apparently, one of his goons had a giant clock strapped to his back. "Ah shit, it's 9? Nason will kill me. You got lucky, punk. Next time I won't go easy on you. Come, Bonnie, we're going home." With that, Bonnie rammed into Ganju and sent him flying. "Well," said Naruto as he accepted his ramen. "That was pointless." It was now near the end of the month-long wait till the finals began. Naruto had finished the second part, but was having a hard time with the last part. And with time running out, Jiraiya decided that maybe they should try a different approach. One that would motivate Naruto into doing better. "So who is this person we're looking for again?" asked Naruto as they walked through some fields. "Just someone I knew a while back," answered Jiraiya. "Her name is Shiba Kukaka, and she was the younger sister of a student of mine way back. However, she likes to keep a low profile and moves around the outskirts of the village a lot." "Okay," said Naruto. "And she'll help me how?" "Just trust me," said Jiraiya with a grin. Moments later, the two of them came to an odd building with arms at the sides that were holding up a banner. "Well, that's new." "Great," said Naruto. "She's crazy. Who dares to speak that way of our master?" came 2 voices that talked at once. A moment later, 2 giant men appeared in front of Jiraiya and Naruto. One wore a white outfit while the other wore a yellow one. "We will not allow anyone to pass without defeating us, so prepare yourselves." Jiraiya just scratched his head. "Hey," he said. "Koganahiko and Shiroganahiko, it's me, Jiraiya." Upon seeing him, the 2 of them got down on their knees and began to bow. "I'm here to see Kakaku. Can you take us to see her?" The 2 men nodded and led the pair into the building and down a flight of steps. They then knelt in front of a door and then took a knee. "Who is it?" demanded a female voice. "I'm with someone." "1,000 pardons," said one of them. "But Jiraiya-sama is here to see you." "He is he?" said the voice in an amused tone. "Well then, let him in." Koganahiko and Shiroganahiko opened the doors and Naruto got a good look at Kakaku. She was lying back on some pillows while smoking a pipe. Her black hair was tied up in bandages and she wore a tight red outfit. What was shocking was that one of her arms was made of wood. With her were Hinata and Yorochi. Both he and Hinata blushed at seeing each other again, since the last time they had kissed. Yorochi blinked when she saw Jiraiya. She didn't expect him to be in town. But then again, she had been here with Hinata for almost a month so they could train in secret. She wanted Hinata to get used to an opponent who could use sand, which happened to be Kakaku's younger brother. However, his skills were nowhere near Gaara's. But still, better to have some than none. A cat-like smile then appeared on her face when she saw Naruto. Of course she knew about the kiss since she had seen it from the shadows. It had been like Christmas had come early for her because she gained a lot of teasing material. It was times like those that made her glad that she had taken Hinata in. "Hey Kakaku," said Jiraiya as he walked in. "I was wondering if you could loan me some of those special orbs of yours. It would be a great help with his training." "And why should I?" asked Kakaku as she took a drag. "No offense, sensei, but I'm already helping out one friend. Why should I help a second?" It was then that she noticed who was standing next to him. The resemblance between him and her brother's old teammate was so striking that she nearly dropped her pipe. Nearly. Maybe I can help you out. I'll get my Ototo to help him out since he's done helping out the Heim here." At that, Hinata squeaked softly and then blushed. She was not used to being called that. "Hey, get in here and behave yourself." All right, said a voice that was very familiar to Naruto. A moment later another door opened and there, kneeling in front of everyone, was Ganju. "I'm Shiba Ganju. It's nice to meet you." It was then that Ganju felt some irritation being directed towards him. Ganju quickly found the source, stood up, and began to point at Naruto. "What the hell are you doing here? I could ask you the same question?" yelled Naruto back at him. "So I take it you both know each other?" asked Kakaku. However, neither one seemed to hear her as Ganju lunged at Naruto. Soon a fight broke out between them which involved breaking everything that got in their way. It was childish and somewhat amusing. Kakaku watched as she continued to smoke her pipe, which was the only thing keeping her calm. Yes, she'd let them fight until they tired each other out. Well, that was the plan until Naruto was thrown at Kakaku and knocked the pipe out of her hand. Kakaku's eyes widened and began to twitch as she looked down at her fallen pipe. A moment later, Ganju stepped on it and broke it. That was the last straw. It was one thing to fight in front of her, but it was entirely another to break her pipe. She began to concentrate chakra into her real fist and slammed it into the ground with a battle cry. Yoruichi, Jiraiya, and Hinata were able to get out of there in time before the blast wave of energy could hurt them. However, the building was smashed up. "I don't know who raised you two, but this is my house and my rules. I don't appreciate what you have done to my house. Look at what you two did. But you're the one who did the most damage," muttered Naruto, who was face down and trying to get back up. Kakaku slowly walked over to him and then picked him up by the hair. "Listen up, Baka," said Kakaku. "This is my house, and if you don't like how I do things, then you can leave. Any problems with that?" "Nope," answered Naruto in a small voice as he began to sweat. "Good," said Kakaku as she lowered him to the ground. Her expression seemed to become friendlier, as if whatever rage had possessed her a moment ago was nothing more than a bad dream. "I'm glad we understand each other." As soon as she said that, she let go of Naruto, who fell to the ground with a thump. Naruto then crawled over to Ganju, who was still shaken up by the whole thing. "Your sister is a real piece of work," whispered Naruto. "I know," muttered Ganju as tears fell from his eyes. "Alright, get off your asses," barked Kakaku. At once both Naruto and Ganju stood and remained completely still. "Ganju, take him to the orb room and show him what to do. Move it." "Hi!" yelled Naruto and Ganju at the same time. A few minutes, Naruto found himself in a regular training hall. The only thing that was odd about it was that there were several spheres in there that looked more like crystal balls. Ganju picked one out and held it in his palm. Slowly, chakra began to fill it until it was full. "Alright now," said Ganju. "These are a special training exercise that is used to help with chakra control. Basically, you just fill it up with chakra without overflowing it. If you do, then it will explode." "So how will this help me?" asked Naruto. "Simple, Gaki," said Jiraiya, who was standing at the door. "The last part of the training requires that you maintain the spherical shape while keeping the power and rotation. If you start to use that jutsu with your chakra inside the orb, then it will explode if the jutsu fails. However, if you do it right, then you'll be fine. In other words, we are taking your training to the extreme." Naruto let out a sigh. He really didn't get how this was supposed to help him, but he did get that if he failed there would be a boom. "Fine," he said as he took an orb. He then began to add chakra, rotate it, and focus the power into the center. For a moment it looked like it was working, until a crack appeared. A half-second later there was the promised explosion. "Damn it!" cursed Naruto, whose hair was now standing straight up and was covered with dirt. As he grabbed another orb, Ganju left the room and went back to where his sister was. "Hey Nei-chan," said Ganju. Why the hell are we helping them? They're shinobi. Have you forgotten what happened, Nissan? Ganju, have you forgotten what I have told you? Asked Kakaku in a serious tone. Never bring that up again. But Nei-chan, began Ganju, but a glare from his sister told him to shut it. You have your orders, said Kakaku as another explosion was heard followed by cursing. And never show them such a weak face again. Ganju nodded and left the room. Kakaku pulled out a bottle of sake and then stared up at the ceiling. Besides, if you were here and you saw that I didn't help them, you would have scolded me. Right, Nissan? Once again, there was another explosion and even louder cursing. It was hours later and Naruto still hadn't mastered the Rasengan. Every time he tried it seemed to blow up in his face. Literally. And each time Naruto got back up and tried again. Ganju had to admit that it was funny to watch at first, but then it got boring. Still, Ganju had to wonder what was driving him. What did he hope to achieve? Hey, barked Ganju as he stood up. You have no talent of this. Just give up already. No way, said Naruto as he grabbed another sphere. I'm not going to give up. Even if you do master this jutsu, there is no guarantee that you'll pass the exam, reasoned Ganju. Unless maybe you're trying to impress a girl. No, said Naruto quickly. That's not why I'm doing this. And besides, right now we're just friends. So then it must be money, said Ganju. You must have made some kind of bet with that old guy that you could master this jutsu. Or maybe you made a bet on yourself for the finals. Is that it? BZZZ, wrong answer, said Naruto. Then what is it? Demanded Ganju. Why the hell are you trying so damn hard? Because it's my dream, declared Naruto, causing Ganju to take a step back. My dream is to one day become Hokage and protect this village. I'm willing to risk my life so that I can protect everyone who is important to me. Even the people who have treated me like dirt, I'll protect them. But why? Stammered Ganju. Because that's my nindo, answered Naruto. That's how I live. Ganju was frozen to the spot he was standing as he stared at the blonde in front of him. He was just a kid when his brother died and couldn't really remember him all that well. But standing there, listening to Naruto talk, it was as if his brother was standing right behind him. Suddenly, Ganju walked over to Naruto and took away the sphere. Listen up because I'll only give you this one tip, he said. Try to visualize that there is a hole. It will always remain the same size as the sphere. Keep that image in mind as you put the chakra into the sphere and it will work. It's a simple trick, but it might be difficult for you. And with that, Ganju left the room. Baka, said Naruto. At least he gave me some advice. With that, Naruto closed his eyes and began to focus on the jutsu once again. This time, however, he did as Ganju suggested. He visualized the hole and kept it from growing as he moved the chakra. And when he opened his eyes, they widened to see that he had done it. Congratulations, said Jiraiya, who was at the door again. You have mastered the Rasengan in only 3 weeks. A new record. Next time the finals begin. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.